It kind of seemed like maybe they wanted him to be hearing. They would say like, oh, he's got like fluid in his ears and you know, that's normal, it's nothing to worry about. They did like a booth test, so they'd have like a soundproof room, and so they would like play sounds that are kind of associated with the lights and the animals. And so he would like look at the lights and he would pass the test. So we actually have a paper showing that he passed an audiogram at like 20 decibels. He was like 18 months when we moved from Colorado to Washington, and we got him tested whenever we moved up here and kind of got like a second opinion.
I think he's ready to go to school.
And they said, well, he's moving around too much, we need to like put him under, and it's called a sedated ABR. And they put, you know, sensors on his ears and get it for sure. And that day we found out, you know, he was 20 months old at that point, and we found out that he was profoundly deaf. And so you kind of look back and go, oh, that's why he slept so good at church when the band was playing really loud and he didn't wake up, and you know, it kind of started to make sense. It was a very intimidating concept for us as hearing people to say that, you know, your first baby is deaf, like he can't hear. Our first like introduction into the world was doctors who did surgery to do cochlear implants, audiologists who worked with deaf kids with cochlear implants, and speech language pathologists who did speech therapy with deaf kids with cochlear implants. And so that was kind of like the group that we were introduced to, and they were like, you know, they saw that we were scared.
There you go. You say hi, you say good morning.
The first kind of suggestion when we found out during that test that he was deaf was that he's a candidate for a cochlear implant, and we're like, what's that? You're able to give them hearing with this device. It's like, it's very appealing. It's not an easy decision, so we're like, I don't know, and we kind of waited a while, and then we had talked to like my wife's parents about, you know, if it was a good thing or not, and her dad was just kind of like, well, if you can give a person an option that would help them, like, why would you not?
You need to stay safe with your seatbelts, so keep them in, okay?
We have speech therapy. The state pays for, you know, the cost of all this stuff, and it's like, okay, this is the only way, and that's the only concept that you're presented with. He had went to a school where they're strictly oral. They pretty much are deaf kids with hearing aids or implants, and they don't sign. You know, it's a very oral approach. You know, that works for a lot of kids. And so he went there for a year, speech therapy, you know, and us, you know, working with him, like reading books every night and like trying to enunciate the words and really like make it a point to kind of like accommodate his, you know, not natural hearing, because he had the implants, he could hear, but it's not natural. He went through like a year of speech therapy, and it just wasn't really seeming to work. He wasn't like talking, you know, he wasn't really like making any different sounds. On top of that, he really resisted against wearing them after a certain time. Like, it seemed like they were becoming like uncomfortable, and he would like flush one down the toilet, he put one in the freezer, hid one, you know, threw one in the trash. yeah, after like a year of trying to work with him on that, it wasn't really seeming to take. We slowly became more aware of like, oh, there's another kind of facet to like the deaf world. There's deaf adults who are successful and they have jobs and they go to college and graduate, you know, and they're profoundly deaf and they only use sign to communicate mostly.
Magical moves.
They're just two kind of different perspectives on like deaf education. So the other school was strictly oral, speech therapy, and no signs, and they don't sign, and that's fine. Like I said, it works for a lot of kids, and it makes sense for a lot of people, and they're successful with that. But Moose, it kind of like is maybe like the middle of the road between like only signing and only talking, because they do total communication here. They do exactly what I'm doing right now. They talk and they sign, like not each word, but it's like you kind of just convey the general idea of what's being said.
The inspiration for the Moose Project was my son. He was born and diagnosed with unilateral hearing loss. First, after feeling actually very guilty, truly, for giving our son hearing loss and having a lot of feelings of, you know, fear and nervousness and what was his life going to become. It actually took my husband sitting me down and saying, you know, you need to stop right now. Asher, his name sign is Asher. Asher is perfect. He's exactly how God planned him to be. He was born into the perfect family for him because he has a mom who is deaf and a sister who signs and a dad who's learning to sign, and he's gonna be just fine. He said, you, Christy, you need to change your thinking. And so what can we do for Asher to give him the best life? That started the journey of just really working on the language with him. I stayed home and we signed and talked all the time. When Asher became close to 3, we just there's no school for him. He needs a preschool, and so we looked and we found amazing schools across the state, but not a school that does both languages all the time. I kept saying, why is this so hard? He needs to have this all the time. And so we just said, okay, I guess we'll just start our own. So that's what we did. That was March of 2014.
He chose for pretty much the last 3 years not to communicate, not to make eye contact, not to interact, like socialize at all. Grandpa would like try to sign to Chael, hey, how are you? And he would just look away. And so I think that's hard for even adults to want to continue doing that when, you know, the kid that you're trying to communicate is just, you know, like not offended, but you know, it's almost just like they're like turned off, like don't do that to me. I mean, you know, like for 3 years, you know, we've kind of been just continually trying, and until we've came to Moose, and the teachers here have been able to work with him and establish that relationship and that connection. Just recently, over like the last, you know, 2 or 3 months, he's actually started to make more eye contact, to develop those relationships with his teacher, with his classmates, and also, you know, he's opening up to his family more. And so now Grandma and Grandpa are seeing him signing, they're seeing him looking at their eyes when they're signing to him, and I think it's a lot more encouraging. I don't know exactly what it was, but you just saw this kind of like light bulb come on, and it was like he just came home one day, and it was like he'd look at you in the eyes, and you're like, whoa, like he hasn't looked in my eyes for 3 years.
So we opened our doors with three preschoolers. Now we have 28 students here. We serve all children and families. So we have hearing, deaf, hard of hearing, nonverbal for various reasons, all together all the time with both languages.
Good morning. How are you?
The goal of a normal day is to the kids come to school, line up sometime in the hallway, go into class, have opening time, together time, communication time. There's math, there's science, there's art, there's reading, library, eating, recess, learning, all together.
For him, I think it was a lot more natural to see a teacher up there that like maybe he didn't understand sign yet, but he was still able to access it if he wanted to, if he chose to. When he moved into kindergarten, it was a small class of 4 kids, and the teacher, I think, was able to spend the time just like focusing specifically on him and kind of like establishing that connection. And she would just kind of like use different methods of teaching him that even if he didn't understand a lot of the sign, like he was still understanding what she wanted and what she expected out of him.
I want all of you to go outside today and look in the dirt and get dirty on your hands and find bugs.
The relationships here at Moose are fully inclusive, I would say, because the children sign for the kids who need sign. And so when they go outside to recess, they don't need to wait because their interpreter is, at lunch break or something. The staff here all must sign and talk at the same time. And all of our volunteers must sign and talk. And it's beautiful, it's magical.
I like art. I like the playground. I like lunch.
I have always had big dreams, and I don't give up. So we have 8,000 square feet of building that our amazing building owners are creating a school for us with. And so they did this for us because they believe in the Moose's mission.
Do they learn skills to stand on their own? Absolutely. Self-advocacy is something that is really encouraged early on. They really want deaf children to be proud in who they are and identify as a deaf person, but not to let that hold them back in any sense. They want these kids to grow up and be productive, self-sufficient members of society. So absolutely they learn skills to stand on their own. General skills for like navigating the hearing world, because at the end of the day not everybody knows sign language. We need to be signing in the home, we need to be modeling that language. What it comes down to is just the parents being motivated to raise their deaf child and to encourage them to communicate. The parent has to be motivated, and they have to want to learn to sign, and basically the school is there to support that desire.
I guess the dream is to kind of like to have like everybody know like what it's like for a deaf person to live. I would like to help people understand that like it's a normal thing. There's a ton of deaf people in our world that you might pass by in the grocery store like all the time and not know it. Deaf people are not that different from us. Like yes, a lot of them use sign language to communicate. And there is some different like, niches in their culture, but for the most part, they taste food the same. they feel clothes the same. They learn, like they read books the same. Language is a big part of it, but for the most part, they're human beings that just, they can't hear. I can't hope for anything better than what is happening right now. He's growing like every day. He's coming home with more signs, with more of a desire to like learn and communicate and interact and socialize, and that's, I mean, you can't ask for more than that. As far as like life in general, I mean, we want to be able to just present him with every opportunity that we can, with language, with friends, school, just like any hobbies that he might want. I mean, you know, whatever. It's like I don't care what he chooses, but I want him to have options.
We want Asher to be able to choose. Yeah, he wants to really focus on the oral part of him, or if he wants to focus on the signing part of him, and we'll support any choice that he makes. Asher will say that he's not deaf. He's Asher, and that's exactly what we want.